Can we get a roll call, please?
Chair Evans,
Here.
Member Chaplin, Member Childress,
Yes.
Member Desart, Member Eckhoff, Member Guston, Member Krajewski, Member Ozog, Member Shorzy, Member Tornatori, Member Yu, Member Zay.
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum. A physical quorum of the members is physically present. I will entertain a motion to permit those members not physically present due to personal illness or disability, employment purposes, or for
So
the business
moved.
of the board or family or other emergency to participate by video or teleconference. Second, all those in favor? Any opposed? The motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome, members A. And do we have any public comments? Okay, no public comments. Okay, so this morning, first order of business, I would like to invite Under Sheriff Eddie Moore from the DuPage County Sheriff's Office here to say a few words about the incident in the southeast part of DuPage County that happened early Sunday morning. Thank you, Under Sheriff Moore.
Morning. At approximately 12:30 on June 18th, 2023, while patrolling in his affairs in DuPage County, sheriff's deputies heard multiple gunshots coming from the strip mall located around 83 and Honeysuckle Lane. Multiple deputies and law enforcement officers from surrounding agencies responded to the strip mall, where a large Juneteenth celebration was taking place. At this time, we can report that there were 22 known gunshot victims with one fatality, Reginald Meadows. Our thoughts and prayers with the family of Mr. Meadows, as the victim seems, as well as victims of this seamless tragedy. The DuPage County Sheriff's Office and Merritt are working diligently to pursue all leads. We encourage anyone who has any information pertaining to this incident to call 630-407-2343, and we will follow up on those leads also. Thank you.
Thank you very much to Under Sheriff Moore. And first on today's agenda is the approval of the 2023 Natural Hazard Mitigation Plan. I see our Director of OHSEM, Craig Diekman, here. I would like to take a moment to say thank you so much to our Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Management staff, our other county departments, Integrated Solutions Consulting for completing this very important document. This plan is essential and required by federal law to be eligible for federal hazard mitigation assistance grant funding and must be updated every 5 years. This plan assesses risk and vulnerability for natural hazards. This plan includes up to 16 different natural hazards. Our plan was one of the first in the nation to be reviewed by FEMA under the newest policy guides that became effective in April of this year. We received FEMA's approval on June 1st, and now it is ready for our adoption. This is no small task, so I just want to applaud our OHSEM staff for doing this and keeping us safe at all times. Weird noises. Okay, and the second matter is today's presentation. Our very own state's attorney, Robert Berlin, is here to discuss his office's various roles and responsibilities. I know almost everyone here knows Mr. Berlin, but I wanted to give a short introduction to his career. Mr. Berlin is a career prosecutor that began in 1987 as a Cook County Assistant State's Attorney, then moved to Kane County as their first Assistant State's Attorney, and then finally to us here at DuPage County. Mr. Berlin has tried hundreds of felony bench trials, including more than 50 homicide cases. During his 10 years as the DuPage County State's Attorney, he has earned the State's Attorney of the Year Award, Frederick Milton Thrasher Award, and the Education Center's Making a Difference Award. We are grateful to have your leadership. And with that, thank you so much for being here, and take it away.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much. So what I want to do this morning is simply give you a brief outline of what we do in the State's Attorney's Office, what our statutory and constitutional duties and functions are. So we start out with the Office of the State's Attorney. It was created in the Illinois Constitution back in 1870. It's important to note that it is a state, the state's attorney is a state rather than a county official. But the state's attorney has both statutory and common law duties analogous to the Attorney General. The legislature can add to those duties, but cannot subtract from those. The 1970 Constitution did not change the common law or statutory duties of the state's attorney. This is our mission, and this has always been our mission. It appears on our website, and it's simply to seek justice for the people of DuPage County with integrity, courage, and professionalism. We're guided by two main concerns, which is protecting the public and defending the rights of victims. This is just a chart of our organizational structure. This is the command staff in the office. So you've got the criminal division, the civil division, investigations, and then the administration division. We also, and I'll get to it in a minute, we also have a children's center, separate line item for the budget, but all part of the same office. Our office is made up of 92 assistant state's attorneys. There are 3 chiefs, 6 deputy chiefs, 7 supervising attorneys, 7 felony first chairs, and 2 juvenile first chairs, with 56 support staff and 19 investigators, and this includes the Children's Center. We have 167 total personnel. And when you look at the gender breakdown of the office, you see 54% of our attorneys are women, 4 of 7 supervisors, 10 of 12 of our felony and juvenile first chairs are women, as well as 2 of the 3 chiefs and the director of the Children's Center. All right, so there's a lot on this slide. This comes right out of the statute, the powers and duties of the state's attorney. The main function, which is to defend the county in all criminal cases and defend all of the county officers and its elected officials in all civil cases involving the county. Let's start with our criminal bureau. Nancy Donahoe is the chief, and the felony trial division, our deputy chief, Dimitri Demopoulos. There are 7 felony courtrooms, 6 that hear all different kinds of felonies, and then the focus courtroom is also considered a felony courtroom. There should be 3 attorneys in each for a total of 21. We're 1 short right now in focus, so we have 20. The goal with the additional funding and the additional attorneys that have been approved for the office is to put 4 attorneys in each felony courtroom. And hopefully we're going to be able to hire those people so that we can accomplish that. So 20 total ASAs in the felony trial division. And these attorneys also comprise the violent crime prosecution unit. And we have a list of major cases which are spread out amongst those attorneys. We also have a number of specialty courts, which I'm sure many of you have heard of. These are based on the restorative justice model. Our drug court has 80 active cases. Our mental health court, or MICAP, 86 active cases. Veterans Court, 21 active cases. And there's 1 full-time attorney that is prosecutes and handles all of those cases. The whole goal in these courtrooms is restorative in nature. There's accountability, but these defendants who are in these courtrooms are getting the help they need, with the goal that their cases will be reduced or in some cases actually dismissed. I also started in 2012 the state's attorney's first diversion program. And the way our diversion court is set up is that defendants actually plead guilty first, but they're not sentenced. They go into the program after they appear in front of a citizens panel. The citizens panel makes a recommendation whether to accept them, and we have the ultimate say. If they get into the program and they complete it, we go back in front of the judge and they're allowed to withdraw their plea of guilty and the case is dismissed and they can get an immediate expungement. By having judicial involvement, which was something that the judges wanted, the only way that someone can be removed from the program is by a judicial order. So if someone is not doing what they're supposed to be doing, if we think that they should be removed from the program, we have to file a motion and there's a hearing in front of the judge. As of January 1st this year, there were 440 cases, 447 cases that have been accepted into the program. 392 have completed this program. And when we last checked, based on an analysis of how many were arrested in the following year after completing the program, we're at about a 97% success rate. So in terms of what we have pending right now, and this is the total number of felony cases as of April 8th, just over 2,800, which is approximately the number of felonies that we charge every single year. There's 360 pretrial cases in our focus courtroom, but also 772 post-judgment cases. So close to 1,100 just in our focus courtroom. And those are first-time drug offender cases, all of them who are getting treatment. 78 cases on our major case list, including 22 murders, 6 drug-induced homicides, 2 reckless homicides, 12 attempt murders. We are one of only 2 counties in the state of Illinois that has their own criminal appeals division. And this is something that we started shortly after I became state's attorney. So it's a supervisor and 4 attorneys, and we handle all criminal appeals out of our county. Some civil appeals, and that includes post-conviction petitions and also significantly trial support. Oftentimes issues come up in the middle of trial, and we have attorneys that are able to actually research those issues and provide assistance and support in case law immediately. All right, so now we move over to our special prosecutions division. Helen Kappas is the deputy chief, and this includes a number of units, including narcotics, gang crimes, public integrity, financial crimes, elder abuse, arson, forfeitures, our felony screening unit, the first appearance court, which depending on what happens with the Illinois Supreme Court, first appearance under the Safety Act will be detention court, drug court, MICAP, a total of 18 attorneys. The felony screening unit is staffed with 4 full-time attorneys, but on the weekends, we have a rotating basis. So we have a schedule that comes out. There are attorneys that are assigned to normal felony screening. There's an attorney that's assigned to merit, also a domestic violence and a narcotics attorney every single weekend. And we're on call 24/7. And what happens on a major case, like what we had in Willowbrook early Sunday morning, is our attorneys go out to the scene or the police station, and we work with the police. We've actually had attorneys working with the sheriff's office in Merritt all weekend. And that's typical for a major case. So the public integrity, financial crimes, elder abuse, we have a supervisor and we actually have 2 first chairs staffing that unit. And unfortunately, one of the busiest units that we have in the office. Moving over to our sexual violence, child protection division. This also includes juvenile and family justice. We have a deputy chief as well as a supervisor. There's a sex crimes, child abuse, domestic violence. These are felony domestic violence cases. That's a supervisor plus 4 attorneys, one of whom is always on call. 2 juvenile courtrooms. When I first started in the county, there were 3, but we have 2 right now with 2 attorneys in each, and they handle both delinquency and abuse and neglect cases. So 11 total attorneys in that division. Then moving over to misdemeanor traffic, 4 misdemeanor courtrooms with 6 attorneys, 2 DUI courtrooms, our domestic violence courtroom, and then 4 traffic field courts. Last year, there were close to 2,000 criminal misdemeanor cases that were charged in the county, over 2,700 DUI cases. Not all of those are state. Some of the villages handle misdemeanor DUI prosecutions, but the law provides any time that it could be a potential felony, they must be charged by the state. And then our domestic violence courtroom, and this is the misdemeanor domestic violence courtroom, 1,743 cases charged last year, which was an 11% increase from the year before. Okay, our Civil Bureau, and all of you are very familiar with all of our attorneys in civil, but Lisa Smith is the chief, Paul Bruckner and Barb Reynolds deputy chiefs, and we have 7 attorneys in civil in addition to the chief and deputies, including Connor McCarthy sitting in the box right now. The Civil Bureau provides advice and representation to all of the county departments, including the county board and the county chair. We represent the county and elected officials anytime the county gets sued. As you know, attend county board and all of the meetings. We have different attorneys assigned. Mental health hearings, tax rate objections, as well as providing opinions and legal advice to all of you. So 10 attorneys total in our civil division. Moving on to child support. I believe we're one of only 9 counties in Illinois that handle their own child support. The Attorney General covers all of the rest of the counties. We recently received funding on a 5-year contract from the state of Illinois to continue prosecuting child support. We bring in around $40 million every year in unpaid child support. It's an incredibly successful unit that has an enormous impact on the community. We've got 3 attorneys total in the unit, 1 supervisor and 2 additional attorneys. Okay, our investigations division, a chief, a deputy chief, and 6-time full investigators, one of whom is assigned to DuMEC, including 4 support staff. What's important to remember is that by law, the Illinois Supreme Court has said that while the state's attorney can hire investigators, they are here on a support basis only. We are not the lead investigator on criminal cases unless an agency asks us to do so because of a conflict or because they may not have the resources. So a lot of the smaller police departments will call on us for help in leading financial crimes investigations. But other than that, we are on a support basis. We do have 1 investigator assigned to merit who responds to call outs. And investigator Nick Liberio was one of the investigators to respond to Willowbrook over the weekend. They are extremely busy, and I can assure you, most of them are retired police officers, and they know when they take the job that this is anything but a retirement job, because the investigations and the cases just keep coming in. Okay, moving over to the Children's Advocacy Center. Again, separate line item for the budget. It actually has its own budget, but part of the office. We have agreements with all the police departments to handle most physical and sexual abuse cases against children that fit the protocol. So Kathy Hunley is the director. There's 2 deputy directors, a policy coordinator, and 5 full-time investigators, 3 case managers, and 2 support staff. We take the cases early on. We work them with the assistance of the local police agency, and our attorneys in our sex crimes unit staff these cases weekly with the Children's Center. And then if they're charged, we prosecute them. Our victim services unit, 4 full-time victim specialists. Under the Illinois Constitution, there is a Crime Victims Bill of Rights, which was passed by the voters in late November 2014. And then there was enabling legislation to implement that constitutional amendment. We have 2 full-time support staff dealing with restitution. We also assist in protective orders when there are pending criminal cases, as well as firearm restraining orders. We get involved early on. We have victim services and an attorney who go with the petitioner to court. And again, this is something I mentioned when I presented on firearm restraining orders. The statute says that the state's attorney may assist petitioners in firearm restraining orders. We take that may to be a shall, because that's what we do. So all of our attorneys in our felony screening unit are trained on firearm restraining orders. We go with the petitioners to court, and we step up in front of the judge as a friend of the court to advocate on behalf of the petitioner in those cases. But our victim services unit gets involved early on in all violent cases. They get all contact information for our victims and make sure that they're notified of every single court date. And then they actually attend court with our victims when there's a hearing or a trial. In addition to our statutory duties and constitutional duties, myself and other members of the office sit on a number of committees and task forces and commissions, which are listed here. Significantly, a couple that I do want to mention, the School Safety Task Force. This is a task force that has been in existence for many years. Really, after Sandy Hook, we became a lot more active, but we meet on a regular basis. And I'm sure many of you heard just recently, we announced the creation of DuSmart, which is kind of modeled after merit, and it allows smaller school districts to benefit from the larger districts in terms of resource sharing. So it's an agreement that almost all of our school districts have already signed off on, where resources can be shared in the event of an emergency, whether it's an act of violence or even a weather related emergency. The Hope Task Force, the Senate President's Committee to amend the Pretrial Fairness Act, which I was part of, the Family Violence Coordinating Council, which just introduced the QR code that the police are now giving to victims of domestic violence so that they can get resources using their cell phone and not a piece of paper that may end up in the wrong hands. Lastly, I leave you with this, which is a quote that we constantly are reminded of in seminars and continuing legal education meetings from Berger versus United States. And it's a reminder about the role of the state's attorney, that the interest of the state's attorney is not that we shall win a case, but that justice shall be done. And justice looks different in every single case. In some cases, justice is MICAP or a drug court, which results in a graduation, which is a very powerful thing for that defendant. In other cases, justice is when a jury comes back with a verdict of guilty, on a violent crime. But the Supreme Court said that the prosecutor can strike hard blows, and indeed, it is our duty to use every legitimate means to bring about a just result, but it's also our duty to refrain from improper methods calculated to produce a wrongful conviction. As a result of that, we have a very robust training program in our office. We do a lot of our own in-house continuing legal education. We assign different attorneys topics and present to the office throughout the year. It's important that our attorneys are the best that they can be because we have very high standards to live up to, not only in terms of what the law requires and what the Supreme Court rules of ethics require, but it's really what the public in this county demands from our office. So we do everything we can to make sure that you and the people in the county receive the best legal representation possible. As you can see, it is a large operation, but I'm proud to say that I have an incredible staff that I believe is very responsive to all of you, as well as the people of the county. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Do you have time for questions?
Sure.
Okay, I will call on Mr. Schwarzy. Right down the names.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, sir. You know, I'm a big fan of yours in your office, and I was curious how your staffing is, because I know we've had that conversation in the past. You have 92 ASAs. Are you still understaffed?
We are, and we are actively recruiting. We have teams that are going out to the law schools. We're interviewing, but like other prosecutors' offices and really other, including our public defender, other public offices, we are having a problem getting qualified people. It wasn't always that way, but it's a recent development in the past few years.
Is there a number that you could throw out on how many you would like to hire at this point?
I would love to hire at least 10 more.
10 more. Okay.
Member Krajewski?
Two things in picking up on that. If you put together a salary study to bump all the starting pays up and everybody along the line, just for the fact that if you're gonna bump the starting pay up, have you got that all put together?
It is all put together, and I think we are appearing in front of you next month
Okay.
with a presentation, myself and Jeff York.
Okay, I'd like to get that sooner than later. Because again, I think, you know, you're out there recruiting, but you need to have that ability to say, here's what because that'll bring your talent level up and also probably get people in quicker. But also adjusting everybody through the ranks. And then second, you mentioned you have one investigator with DuPage. And I don't know if the sheriff's still here. The sheriff, are we part of the sheriff part of DuPage?
I don't believe so. I think at one time they were.
Yeah, I don't believe so either. And I noticed when you had boards and commissions up there, you know, you're on merit, which I think is a great collaboration now with the county and all the local municipalities. And you're also, or somebody from your office is on the merit commission. Again, I think the sheriff and you guys are doing a lot on the drug side. DuPage's out there doing what they're doing, that I think we should probably look at more of a regional approach with that, with spearheaded from you and the sheriff and bringing the local municipalities versus DuPage that's out there, which I know you have one investigator. I noticed you weren't on the board or somebody from your office, but I think that's something you and the sheriff should look at, is trying to create a more regional one with DuPage County with DuPage. Or something separately called something different. But sometimes I think that we're doing this and they're doing that.
We actually, it's not included. We are part of the DuPage board.
Okay.
There's actually a lot of sharing of resources and information and somewhat of a regional approach in a lot of these cases. It just depends what the nature of the case is. Drug-induced homicides are a perfect example, which sometimes can expand beyond just DuPage County.
Thank you.
Okay, I have member Childress, member Garcia, member Yu, member Galassi, and then member Cahill.
I'll be quick. The question I have is, when I was looking at your special prosecution division under Helen, what happens when there's overlap on that? How is that assigned? For example, narcotics, gang activity, if they're one of two, how do you decide where it's gonna go?
So it depends on the nature of the case and as well as caseload, where when the cases are assigned, sometimes a prosecutor from the special unit will try it with an attorney in the courtroom. Sometimes it will just become a courtroom case that will stay with the felony attorneys in the room. It's really done on a case-by-case basis. It really depends if we need a particular expertise.
Okay, and then one other question. How many municipalities have a state's attorney? I think that if I remember right having a conversation, Naperville has their own state's attorney. What's the difference between your office and their office?
So municipalities have village attorneys. They're not state's attorneys, they're
Okay.
village prosecutors. And I think every municipality has a village prosecutor for traffic, for minor traffic offenses they handle. I think it's about half of the municipalities that do their own DUI prosecutions. But remember, it's just misdemeanor only DUI prosecution. So anytime it's somebody's third, or if they're driving on a revoked license because of a prior DUI, or there's serious bodily injury, those are felonies. Those are always handled by the state.
Okay.
At this time, I'm so sorry, but I'm going to have to pause this part, and we have a pretty full agenda. So I think what we're going to do is have people ask questions that are new business. I have the list of everybody, but yeah, thank you so much for
fine.
being here. Yeah.
I'll stick around.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so with that, we're going to move on to the approval of minutes. Can I get a motion to approve the Judicial and Public Safety Committee regular meeting Tuesday, June 6th, 2023? All in favor? Okay, the motion carries. We'll go on to approval of minutes for item 23, 21, 40, Judicial and Public Safety Committee Executive Session Tuesday, June 6th, 2023. All in favor? Okay, that motion carries. We're moving on to resolutions. Can I get a motion to move on? Can I get a motion for JPSR 006223, adoption of the 2023 DuPage County Multi-Jurisdictional Natural Hazard Mitigation Plan? Any discussion on that? Okay, all in favor? Okay, the motion carries. Moving on to budget transfers, we have item 23-2147, transfer of funds from contingencies to repair and maintenance other equipment in the amount of $466,817 to upfit the 35 patrol vehicles that were received early. Cars that were back ordered were received, as well as cars that were not expected until fiscal year 2024. This will cover the cost of the equipment necessary to upfit the vehicles. Is there any discussion on that? Okay, we have member Krajewski and then member Chaplin.
Just one question, and they can get back to me later. Just how long does it take to get these things, or what's the projected time to get these things outfitted or ready to go on the street? You don't, I mean, you can get that.
I actually do have an answer. I was
Okay.
briefed on this by the sheriff's office. They apologize. They had a briefing they had to attend.
Sure.
So with this, it's the purchasing of all the equipment necessary for the 35 cars. Now that we'll have it in stock as opposed to doing piecemeal, they can get 2 to 3 cars done a week roughly. If all the supply is in. So hypothetically, 35 vehicles, whatever the math works out to be by the end of the year, if everything comes in appropriately.
Do we need those vehicles on the road faster than that? And to do 2 or 3 a week, is there a way to?
So we did have a bid go out in regards to upfitting. However, the only response was Public Safety Direct. So this is the option we have currently.
So we got no bids responded back to,
Outside of the current vendor, no.
so we can't just take. Seems to me we could find, I mean, do we need these vehicles?
There, I do know that
It definitely seems like I see vehicles sitting out there to just, I mean, for months, they're not outfitted and.
correct. And those are the 35 vehicles that is mentioned in the blurb. And they are working as diligently as possible to get those done. And Deputy Chief Bill Ledoux and the administration team are working to see if there's other options to get them outfitted sooner.
It seems to me there's got to be another option to get these vehicles ready to go off the street. Thank you.
No problem.
Member Chaplin?
Yeah, and I just wanted to point out, there were cars received that were not expected until 2024. So the 2024 budget will reflect that these cars were purchased in this year instead of next year. We'll pull those out. Yes.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Member Chaplin. Member Dessart?
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to answer the question because I had a nice conversation yesterday with both Sheriff Medrick and Deputy Chief Billadu. And I was just going to answer to Brian that it's about 2.5 vehicles per week. And apparently this is the only outfit that actually upgrades these police cars throughout the area. So there is only one facility that does this regularly, and they've got 2.5 employees. So that's why it's about 2.5 cars per week. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, all in favor? Okay, motion carries. Okay, moving on to action items, we have JPS CO 000523, recommendation for the approval of an amendment to resolution JPSP 027522
Second.
for a change order amending purchase order 60961 serve issued to Public Safety Direct to increase the contract amount of $466,816.70, resulting in an amended contract total not to exceed $726,816.70. Any discussion on this? All in favor? Okay, the motion carries. Now let's move on to item 232141. Can I get a motion for a county contract 56561 serve issued to Northeast DuPage Family and Youth Services to decrease the total contract amount by $12,440 and close the contract. Any discussion on this? All in favor? Okay, motion carries. Moving on to grants. Can I get a motion for item 232019 GPN 03223 Paul Coverdell Forensic Science Illinois Criminal Justice Information Authority, U.S. Department of Justice, in the amount of $178,733. Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? Okay, and moving on to informational, can I get a motion to approve on file item 232142, Public Defender's Office, May 2023 monthly statistical report? Any discussion on this? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Moving on to old business. Does anybody have any old business? Okay, perfect. Okay, and so for new business, Mr. Berlin, he's here now. So I am going to finish the list that we started. So the next up is Member Garcia.
And I'll make this quick. It was a great presentation, State's Attorney. I really appreciate that. I'm hoping we can get copies of those slides with all the information. That would be fantastic. It's in my email. Oh, thank you, Jason. The one thing that did stick out to me, though, was the specialty courts. It looks like they have over like 160 cases with just like one ASA. Is there going to be more assigned to that, or is that a normal caseload? Because those are like, I believe those are dear to my heart, those type of courts.
We haven't had the need for more. These are cases that they're staffed periodically, and our attorney does an outstanding job. If there is a need, obviously we'll put somebody in there.
Okay, thank you.
Member you.
Thank you, Chair. So thank you very much for this presentation, Mr. Berlin. I was really interested to know if the committee to implement firearm restraining orders, if that is an active committee still, and if there has been more outreach into the community, because anecdotally, I feel that people still do not know about the FROs. And I'm wondering if there is any efforts to expand it. I know that DuPage County is actually one of the highest counties that actually do FROs, which is great, but yeah, any other steps?
So to answer the first part of the question, the charge of the committee was to produce a report, which I believe was it was sometime last year that the state police came out with their report. I gave a presentation to that committee. We are actually in the process of going out to the public with information to talk about firearm restraining orders and how they're done, to kind of spread the word so that people understand how they work. And we've done a number of things, and I think in the next month or two, you're going to see big developments in that regard. Statewide, you know, I know there have been efforts. As you pointed out, we've done over 25% of all of them in the state. We're way ahead of everyone else. Some counties haven't done any. Yeah, so it is something that I can tell you that the state's attorneys just recently discussed at our conference a couple of weeks ago. I actually just sent some materials to one of the state's attorneys in Southern Illinois. They're kind of very interested in following our lead. But we have been and will continue to be way out in front of this issue. All of our police are trained in these, as well as our prosecutors. And I obviously, we don't know on each individual case if we have saved a life or not, but I'm very confident that we've saved many by our use of this.
Member Galassi. Oh, sorry, Member Cahill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mr. Berlin, for that excellent presentation. We are so fortunate to have you here in DuPage County with your years of experience. I'm wondering if you can share with the board your involvement in writing amendment to the Safety Act, because he was called upon, he named all his task force, but he's very humble, Mr. Berlin, because he was called upon to help with some amendments for the Safety Act.
Sure. So the committee was put together by the Senate President staff at the time the lawsuits were being filed by various state's attorneys throughout the state. They wanted 3 state's attorneys to be part of that committee to work with the General Assembly in a amendment. And the order was clear that anyone who was part of the lawsuit would not have a seat at the table. And that's why we were not part of the lawsuit, because I felt it was important to have a seat at the table. So it was myself, Jamie Mosser, who's the Kane County State's Attorney, and Julia Reitz, the Champaign County State's Attorney. And it was an 8-week process, 2 or 3 times a week, sometimes 4 to 6 hours on Zoom, going through language and discussing all the different provisions of the Pretrial Fairness Act. Ultimately, the bill that was passed, I think we accomplished a lot. I would say that we got about 90% of what we were asking for. And this is the law that will go into effect if the Illinois Supreme Court overrules the judge in Kankakee. And as everyone knows, those arguments in the Illinois Supreme Court were back in March, and we're still waiting for a decision from the court. But it was a lengthy, intense process, but ultimately I think we accomplished a lot. And if the law does go into effect, I believe we will have time before it's actually implemented, although we're ready to go in this county. But if that happens, I have a presentation and I'm going to ask to come back in front of the whole board just to kind of go through what the changes were, so everyone understands how it's going to work.
Wonderful. Any other questions? Okay, thank you so much for coming. Thank
My
you for
pleasure.
keeping
Thank you.
DuPage County safe. And with that, can I get a motion to, motion to adjourn? Oh, okay. Oh, sorry. Any more new business? Sorry, Member Chaplin.
Thank you. So first, I like to say, I like to pass my condolences on to the family of Reginald Meadows. I'm deeply distressed by the news that came out of Willowbrook over the weekend. It's just a tragedy with the loss of life and so many people that were injured. I'm grateful to our chairwoman for making a statement on this. I find it concerning that our sheriff has not issued a statement or held a press conference. Has the person responsible for the unincorporated areas of DuPage County, his absence is noticed. I'd like to thank Eric Swanson, the Deputy Chief of the Sheriff's Office, and Joe Ostrander, the Battalion Chief of the Tri-District Fire Protection District, for speaking with the press and for being there. and for the Willowbrook Police Department for making sure people had accurate information and giving them the county's information so that people could call the county to find out, maybe the status of, people that they were looking for and things of that nature. So I appreciate all that cooperation between them. If you take a quick look at our crime portal, I mean, there's a disturbingly high incidence of crime in the vicinity of the shooting, and it has been for years. The Chicago Tribune reported that a unit in the apartment building, a screen door was shattered or a glass door was shattered right across from the mall. Another witness stated that she'd heard gunshots in the mall parking lot for several days, but observed no police presence or response. She also mentioned that over the past 5 years, gun violence in the area has become alarmingly frequent, and that's disturbing. The New York Times reported that another woman who had an apartment there, one bullet went through her living room window and the other through her bathroom window, hitting a clock and a back of her wall. Thank goodness that she was not home at the time. This all just seems, I just can't fathom it. I understand that years ago, the sheriff had a satellite office in that neighborhood. I think there was one first in the strip mall, and then a satellite office was in an apartment building, an apartment unit there. Years ago, the sheriff pulled out of that area. I really think we need to have a satellite office there. The sheriff does a wonderful job handing out food to the senior citizens, and the sheriff's deputy, Christine, she knows every single one of those senior citizens by name. Why aren't those same relationships being built in Willowbrook Corners? They need to be. It's just, if we had, the sheriff's department put a memo out looking for information from residents there that might have video or photos, but the notice is lacking anything that says all information will be confidential. Okay, so people don't know if they give, I think that needs to be put on there, that any information you provide, you're going to be protected. We're not going to give your name out. Also, by having a strong police presence, or at least not a strong police presence, a community officer in that area, they could build those relationships with the sheriff's department. When they build those relationships, then they can say, Sheriff Smith, we heard that there's going to be this event going on. We're concerned about our safety. They build those relationships. Those people could give them the information that need to possibly prevent things like this. Also, by building that relationship with the sheriff, you may have more people coming forward to bring that information to them, because there is that trust built between the sheriff and the residents there. I've been out to that complex several times with former board member Julie Renahan. And it's disheartening to witness the lack of amenities out there and the disinvestment in that community. And those were issues that member Renahan had tirelessly sought to bring the attention of so many people. So, I think it's time that we really take a look at this area, whether this committee go out there on a field trip, I don't know, but something needs to be done. We need to get out there, and we need to let to know that the people in Willowbrook Corners matter to us. It's at this document from transportation, we had it done, I think, a few years ago, but it gives the key indicators there. There's 60% minority, 30% age 17 and below, 34% at or below 200% or poverty, 41% unemployed, not in the workforce, 80% in a 3+ person household, 45% one or no vehicles, 25% no computer or broadband. This area needs help, and we need to get out there and assist them. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Chaplin. I'm going to go with Member Krajewski, Member Desart, and then Member Ozog.
Sir, if we're gonna take a look at that, we need to do it on a much larger scale. We need to put the map of DuPage County up, and unfortunately, when you look at it, you'll see all the different unincorporated pockets that sit in between municipalities. And I know you go back in the early 2000s, a couple of chairmen ago, Chairman Schillerstrom was trying to reach out to the neighboring communities because they have a big police presence. So in this case, you're surrounded by Burr Ridge, Darien, Willowbrook Incorporated, with a little pocket of unincorporated. I know at the time I served as mayor at Downers Grove, back when Chairman Schillerstrom was looking at that, we also had some areas of unincorporated that had our residents there in front of us asking to help, because it was a small pocket, except for it was unincorporated county. And, you know, they don't have enough staff to have them at each of these areas in the unincorporated areas. So they were at the time looking at municipalities to see if they could take over the patrolling of those areas. Again, so if we're going to be looking at this, it may be in a regional approach. I'm not sure that that's the answer, but in this particular instance, there's multiple municipalities that surround that little unincorporated area. So it's tough with all our unincorporated areas throughout the county. If you look at a map and the sheer amount of patrolmen that we either have to put more resources, add more officers that we can patrol some of these unincorporated areas, but there's small pockets that are getting smaller as areas annex into municipalities. But a lot of these small little areas are, unincorporated. We just don't have the staff.
Thank you, Member Krajewski. Member Desart.
Thank you. I agree. Member Julie Renahan really started this conversation in earnest. And I would love to see this county take a larger community conversation about the Willowbrook corners. There are things we can do, and we could do immediately. Lighting and sidewalks in that area are either non-existent or broken. Our transportation department could get in there and fix the sidewalks and put in decent lighting in the area. I understand that a lot of the people shop for their groceries at a liquor store in that strip mall where this tragedy happened. We could talk with grocers. I know the US president of Aldi, maybe put in a healthy food grocery store so it's not a food desert in that area. I think that would be helpful. And we could team up with our partners like PACE for quality public transportation for people in that area to get to jobs, get to education, get out of that community and find work where they can get transportation. So I do agree that DuPage County could really do a lot to transform that area into a place where people live in their homes without fear. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Desart. Member Ozog.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A couple of comments. I concur with Member Chaplin about our concern with presence in the area, having some kind of a satellite court, which did exist in the past. Presence of police often indicates deterrence. And one of the concerning issues that I heard about Sunday night's incident was that the police were present and then had to leave to go on another call. And soon after that, the incident happened. Again, so many moving parts. We don't know what's happened yet. So we certainly have to wait for the investigation. But in terms of presence, I think we need to look at the entire county because we have an entire summer ahead of us. And these incidences, I think about last summer, we had a gathering in Glen Ellen with about 400 people, but we had our own municipal police presence. So I think presence can often equal deterrence. And I think we need to keep that in mind. And as for Member Desart's concerns, as the chair of the Transportation Committee, we will definitely be looking at lighting, sidewalks. Those are things certainly within our control, and try to do something about some sort of feeder service where people can at least get to grocery connection for public transit. There's a lot of difficulty with finding somebody to actually do this, but we'll be definitely talking about this in the Transportation Committee. But I certainly agree that we really need to focus on how we can improve people's lives in this area. This is so unfortunate, and
we await more information. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Ozog. I have Member Guston and then Member Eckhoff.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Deepest sympathy goes out to the families after the event that happened this weekend. You know, my mother would always say, no good things happen after dark. So maybe there needs to be some type of curfew of sort that might be effective to be able to help people be safer. I didn't know if this was an event that required a permit, if there was an organized group that put it together. Maybe that information will start coming forward to us. I do think we do need a regional look at all of DuPage County. We had an 89-year-old woman, two men, you know, pretended they were something, broke into her home, took things from her, and it took about 15 minutes for our sheriffs to get there. So we need to have a better plan in place. If it's more people, more sheriffs, a better relationship with the cities and the villages to be able to get a quick response, or, you know, and I know we do have a lot of relationships with the villages and the cities for working together. As far as people giving information that we're at an event and it's going to be confidential and anonymous, I can tell you I've talked to quite a few people that will not provide information, even though you say it's confidential and anonymous, because there is a tracking of the case and then they can figure out who said what. And so because it's a case and it's going to start unfolding with information, people won't say anything. They just won't. And they're worried that they're going to be the next target or the next victim. So I don't know what the answer to that one is, but that just seems to be inbred into it. So I have a lot of faith in our state's attorney. I think once all of this information starts coming out, I will say that I'm glad to see that the sheriff isn't here, because I want him to do his job. And I want him to find out who did this, who started it, who organized it, what happened, so that those individuals can be prosecuted, so that they're taken off the street, so that no one else gets harmed, hurt, or killed. My opinion.
Thank you, Member Guston. And before I call on Member Eckhoff, I do want to point out that we've actually, this is coincidental. I've been working, this is in District 3, which is Member Krajewski and Member Galassi and I's area. And I have a meeting, I have 2 meetings today with Willowbrook Corner Coalition and the owner of the apartment complex right there. We are going to be getting a sheriff's office inside that complex. And so this is fluid, but it's coming. So that your comments do not go I will be taking all of our comments to these meetings. So Member Eckhoff.
Well, thank you. Just a couple comments based sort of responding to what other people have said. I am not aware during my 20 years here that we've ever had a local sheriff's office in this area. Sheriff Zaruba many years ago wanted to have regional offices in the east, west, north, and south. And due to the cost of that and the fact that I thought that they should, the sheriff's office partner with local municipal officials, and if they needed a desk or some office space, use a local office. That idea for a local office didn't go forward. So maybe there's something I'm missing, maybe there's something else, but I don't remember any of that in 20 years. We're talking about community policing now. Maybe Julie Renahan was involved in this. I don't remember anybody talking anything about this during the last 10 years. And community policing is very important. I think our sheriff has probably been very involved in that. He did have a presence at the site at the night that this occurred. And I think that was very important. And unfortunately, there's another area that needed attention and his officers went there. There was a comment about putting in an Aldi's. I don't know how a county puts in an Aldi's anywhere. That's economic development. We can't direct and order a grocery store to go in anywhere. So that's something that would, if you look at the Corner County Farm in Roosevelt, I wanted a grocery store to go in there ever since Ultra went out, and we haven't been able, the city of Wheaton hasn't been able to do that. And then we talk about more sheriffs, just as our state's attorney just talked about more attorneys. It's been very difficult to get. And a lot of that started with what I've talked about for the last 2 years, the passage of the Safety Act. That I think has demoralized a lot of people who are in law enforcement, reduced the number of people who want to go into law enforcement, and unfortunately was passed or was supported by a majority of this board. So if we want to start getting more sheriffs, we want to start getting more police, we want to start getting more state's attorneys and public defenders, then I think we need to get back on board with public safety and start rejecting some of these radical ideas.
Member Chaplin, and then I'll call on member Desart.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Evans. I also wanted to mention that not only do I have concerns with what happened this past weekend at the sheriff's office, Member Garcia and I were out helping hand out the senior food last Saturday. When we left, a young gentleman came up to us and asked us if we had a phone. We were out here in the parking lot. Member Garcia let him use the phone. He said he was just released from jail. He left his night shift. And I asked him if he made a phone call. He said they gave him a 4-digit number, but he couldn't use the digits that he gave him didn't work. So Member Garcia let him use her phone. He called, I don't know who he called, but whoever he called, he asked them to bring him water because he was dehydrated. He also asked, where am I? I'm like, well, you're at the 421 building and, and that's where you should be picked up. So I'm just wondering and I did speak to somebody else. They left a meeting here at 10 p.m. and they had a very similar incident happen. So I'd like to know what our release procedures are, because especially it was 90 degrees that day. And this was a young gentleman. And, we need to make sure that people that are being released at least have a ride and are not, at least are not like dehydrated or have water or something, especially on a hot day. I'm concerned with interdepartment struggles. I'm concerned last summer, we had that overdose that led to a death in the jail. The inappropriate relationship between the female inmate and the correctional officers, and 2 women died last week in the jail. I mean, I think all these incidents warrant urgent attention. And I think it's important that the sheriff come and give us an update of exactly what's going on over in his office.
Thank you, member Chaplin. Member Desart.
I just wanted to respond to member Eckhoff and say that I never said we would demand a private company to build a grocery store in that area. I was talking more about building partnerships with PACE, not demanding PACE run a line through their community, partnerships with grocery stores like Aldi. And I think that you knew very well that I wasn't demanding a private company build a store there. So I just wanted to clear that up. Thank you. I was trying to come up with positive solutions to a very sad negative. People live in fear in that area. And I was just trying to come up with some positive ideas to share with you. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, member Eckhoff and then member Krajewski.
Well, I didn't know it was Festivus so soon during this year, and we're airing all our grievances against the sheriff today. So I think it's unfortunate that this situation occurred, but I think it's more unfortunate that now we're going to bring up everything we've ever heard about the sheriff. He agrees with me. Maybe there was
Okay.
God. But anyway, so, we can go on and on and on about all this, but I think we've got a great sheriff. We've got a great state's attorney's office. We've got a great public defender, which is important in administering justice in the county. And I'm sure that they are appropriately handling it. I will tell you, because I walk through the county complex on occasion, and I've been stopped by people and asked them to use my phone. And I was very glad that they used it and didn't run away with it. But so anyway, I'm sure our sheriff is on top of this.
I'm going to call on member Ozog and then member Krajewski.
I think it's really important for all of us on the board to remember that it's our job to ask questions, especially when we have an event like this that is not made just the national news, but the international news. And overall, our goal needs to be to make life the best it can be in our communities, including Willowbrook Corner. Thank you. I'm sorry, I need to excuse myself from my.
Thank you, member Ozog. Member Krajewski.
I don't know, they were talking about grocery stores and stuff, but just you guys a heads up, we got a zoning case coming to us, the Quick Trip gas station, convenience store right in that neighborhood, truck stop and video gaming. But we do have the Village of Blue Ridge who's adamantly opposed to it and has filed already petition against it, but that's right there in that neighborhood. So that'll be coming to us. I think it was at the zoning board of appeals last week.
All right, thank you. I'm gonna go ahead and just, yeah, we've lost quorum, so I'm adjourning the meeting and we'll see you in 2 weeks. Thank you.